one, Rotarian Ravindra Bhatt. Sir, I request you to give the welcome address, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
A very good afternoon to one and all here. Am I audible, sir?
Yes, sir.
You are audible. Yes, sir. Please, sir.
A very good afternoon to one and all here. Leadership in changing landscape. The globalization has transformed the world into a global village where organizations are always antagonistic and compete with each other. As a result, organizations have to create new beneficial operational ways to improve their business. In this situation, leadership has become an essential component for a successful change in any organization in order to face the ever-contentious competition in the global market. As leaders in organizations are recognized as champions of change, it is therefore the responsibilities of top management of any organizations to keep the process of change ongoing in order to sustain the operational trustworthiness of the organization. This wonderful evening, we are having discussion on the next level leadership, which has a value-added talk between. Once again, a very good afternoon, one and all. I welcome you all. President of Rotary Club of Suratkal, Rotarian Chandrakant Marathe, Assistant Governor of Zone 2, Rotarian Raghavendra Rao, District Chairman of Leadership Development, Rotarian Ramesh Rao. Today's eminent speakers, Professor S. Jagdish, Mr. Mohan Raj, Dr. Aman Agarwal, Dr. Sanjay Jha, Dr. Farid Ahmad, Moderator, Dr. M. Narendra, and all the Rotary Club members of the entire district and other districts also to this beautiful, fantastic leadership development seminar. I once again welcome you all and also wish you a beautiful, fantastic evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rotarian and Ravindra Bhattaji, and as well as the district governor. And now I request our Priyanjali to put the slide, and I would like to take some time to introduce our guest speakers or the panelists. Yes, madam. The next slide.
Thank you so much. Good evening to all our esteemed speakers and the wonderful audience. Today, we have a panel of exemplary leaders who will share their mantras of great leadership with you. Our chief guest is Mr. A.R. Ravindra Bhatt. Mr. Bhatt is the District Governor of Rotary India, District 3181, a man of extraordinary multitasking skills, thinks on 360-degree lines, and believes in team growth as his personal growth. He is the recipient of numerous awards. Our guest of honor is Mr. Raghavendra P. Mr. Raghavendra is an advocate and notary, a legal advisor to a number of organizations, as well as to the Dakshina Kannada District Federation of Consumer Organizations. He has authored a number of books and is the district coordinator of National Stock Exchange for conducting awareness programs. He is an active member of Rotary Club of Suratkal and has served in different capacities. Our panelists are Professor S. Jagdish. He has served as a professor in IIM Bangalore and is the founder director of Asian School of Business in Trivandrum and is a visiting faculty of many business schools. He has worked in both private as well as public sector organizations in managerial positions and also as a vice president of Gallup QSA Limited. Professor Jagdish has published and presented papers related to the role of information technology for Indian banks and also on e-governance. And these are just a few of his qualifications. Dr. Aman Agarwal. Dr. Agarwal is a professor of finance, dean and director, Indian Institute of Finance, executive director of the journal Finance India. He has been felicitated with numerous awards and has served as editorial board member for various journals. He appears frequently with views and analysis on radio, TV, and newspapers with regards to financial policies, education, capital markets, and economic scenarios. Dr. Agarwal is a lecturer, chairs technical sessions, a gifted researcher, a visiting professor, an excellent speaker, and a philanthropist. Dr. Farid Ahmad. Dr. Ahmad is a versatile banker with 37 years of experience in public sector banks across different departments and in various senior leadership positions. He has to his credit 12 research publications in national and international journals and has won numerous awards. Currently working as an advisor for Center for Innovation and Public Systems, Hyderabad, distinguished industry specialist to National Institute of Bank Management, Pune, and other assignments, to name a few. Mr. Mohan Raju. Mr. Raju is the Vice President and Vertical Head IoT at Jio. He has a rich and diverse experience of delivering in key business leadership roles for various organizations. He is also the honorary chair for the Mobility Special Interest Group at the Indus Entrepreneurs, as well as the honorary member of the Digital Communications Working Group of the Institution of Engineering and Technology Future Tech Panel for India. Mr. Sanjay Jha. Mr. Jha is currently the CHRO and Senior VP, BD and OEM Relations with Mahindra First Choice Wheels Limited, an auto tech company which is used in vehicle ecosystem. He has over 30 years of work experience in the field of operations, TQM, TPM, HR, and sales. He is a certified Six Sigma Black Belt and certified ACC level ICF coach. Mr. M. Ramesh Rao. Mr. Rao is a civil and mechanical contractor, graduated from Govindadasa College. He has been the past president of Rotary Club of Surathkal. He has also been the chairman Leadership Development, Rotary District 3181 for the year 21-22. Mr. Chandrakant Marathe. Mr. Marathe worked for Wipro Fluid Power Bangalore for a year and later joined AdLab's Photo Digital Studio and has been serving there for nearly 25 years. He has also served as the secretary of Rotary Club of Surathkal and currently the president of the club. On behalf of NCube Collaborations, I take delight in welcoming you all for our virtual webinar. I request Ms. M. Narendra, former CMD of IOB Bank and advisor NCube Collaborations, to kindly take over.
Thank you. Now, as per the agenda, we would like to have Rotarian Ramesh Rao, who is the chairman of the leadership development at the district level, to give his opening comments. Ramesh Rao. Yeah. Ramesh Rao, you are hearing?
Yeah, I'm hearing.
Yeah, please start. Yeah.
Can you? Am I audible?
Yes,
Yeah,
sir, you are.
Or yeah, sorry. Yeah.
Good evening. Honorable District Governor 3181 Rotarian PHF Ravindra Bhatt, Assistant Governor Zone 2 Rotarian Raghavendra, President of Host Club of Rotarian Chandrakant Marathe, Moderator of the webinar Dr. Narendra M, District Rotary Leaders, panelists, and fellow Rotarians. I am a Rotarian M. Ramesh Rao, District Chairman, Leadership Development, Rotary International District 3181. Our District Governor Rotarian Ravindra Bhatt has kind enough to welcome all of you to this webinar. I sincerely thank him. As a District Chairman, I consider it to be an honor and privilege to speak a few words on this webinar on leadership in the changing landscape. We often hear about inspiring and innovative leadership. We also aspire to become inspiring and innovative leaders. It is particularly true in this ever-changing scenario wherein the entire world is looking at Bharat to lead and guide every one for a better tomorrow. Rotary International always believes in developing the leadership qualities of Rotarians to make them more human and respond to the needs of underprivileged. At the district level and zonal level, several workshops, conferences, and training programs are held to hone the leadership qualities of Rotarians. On this background, our District 3181 has organized a webinar on leadership development titled Leadership in Changing Landscape. It is a Rotary District 3181 webinar and covers 4 revenue districts of Karnataka, namely Dakshina Kannada, Kodagu, Mysore, and Chamarajanagar. I am glad that all of you have joined this session to sharpen your leadership qualities. The main idea of this webinar is to interact with our panelists on the changing dimensions of economy and to develop our leadership qualities not only in the Rotary activities, but also in our professional and family life. Our Rotary Club in the district have devised and executed hundreds of projects that have succeeded in making a difference in changing the lives of common man. It shows that true leadership qualities of Rotarians involved in those activities. When we thought of organizing the webinar, we had only one person in mind to moderate the session. He is Mr. M. Narendra, the former CMD of Indian Overseas Bank and advisor, NQ Collaborations. More than that, he is a friend, philosopher, and guide to all of us. In fact, he is the one who has brought on the panel a team of very resourceful persons as panelists. We are sure he will enlighten us different aspects of leadership in the changing scenario. We have amongst panelists 5 eminent personalities, namely Dr. S. Jagdish, a former professor of Indian Institute of Management, Bangalore; Dr. Aman Agarwal, Dean and Director of Indian Institute of Finance; Dr. Farid Ahmad, former Executive Director of Punjab and Sindh Bank; Mr. Mohan Raju, Vice President, Reliance Jio Infocom Limited; and Mr. Sanjay Jha, Senior Vice President, Mahindra First Choice Limited. Perhaps it would not have been possible to bring them together under one platform if it were a physical meeting. We must acknowledge the contribution of technology, which has enabled us to pull together leaders from all of places, far off places under virtual mode. As a district chairman, I too welcome the district governor, assistant governor, Dr. Narendra, panelists, district Rotary leaders, fellow Rotarians, and well-wishers to this unique program of understanding leadership in the changing world scenario, which is aptly called Leadership in Changing Landscape. Thank you.
Thank you, Ramesh, Chairman of the Leadership Development at the Rotary District 3181, and also my good friend. Now I have the pleasure of giving my opening comments. At the outset, I extend a hearty greetings as well as the festival greetings to all our participants and all our distinguished panelists, as well as the Rotarians and very top personalities who are in our midst in this virtual mode today for this webinar. I recognize the presence of Rotary District Governor Ravindra Bhatt, as well as the Assistant Governor, as well as the Ramesh Rao and Chandrakant Marathe from the Rotary Club of Suratkal, the host club, and our Praveen Udupwa, who is also assisting us in this virtual mode. He himself is a Rotarian from Mangalore. So he has been always helping us to give this program on virtual mode. As all of you are aware that today's subject, that is leadership in the changing landscape, is very, very much relevant in the current context. What we see in the global world in terms of geopolitical problem, as well as the economic disaster, and we are just recovering from the last 2.5 years of COVID. And in this period, the entire the leaderships were put into a lot of test their ability to lead, the ability to bring whatever required changes, and they had to bring transformational leadership so as to see that every section of the people or all the stakeholders are taken care. And particularly in the context that during the COVID, the entire things were going on the virtual mode, and particularly the workers were working from the home, and how a leader could keep communication, and he could keep the morale of the people as well as his own moral until he shows self-confidence and he shows his courage. During those periods, everything was unpredictable and we were not knowing what exactly, how this should be managed. It is not only for corporate leaders, it is for educationalists, for also, or it is for every organization, and even for our country, Prime Minister and other leaders of our country and other elsewhere also. And over and above that, we were recently seen what is happening in Russia versus Ukraine, and what has been happening in our neighboring country, Pakistan, as well as Sri Lanka. And almost Sri Lanka is on the brink of default already, they have declared. So this needs an extraordinary leadership. And moreover, that India as well as other countries are committed for climate change. And we are shortly coming with the, I think, the Earth Day all over the world. And we have been seeing the exploitation of the earth, and also we are destructing the nature. We are also, in our hunger, we are killing the animals. So the whole environment and the nature, which provides so immense, what you call, benefits to us, and we don't care for that. And that has resulted in a greater climate change. And today, India, as well as elsewhere, all the countries are signatory to the climate accord to see that the impact of climate change is minimized, and we have to achieve zero emission by India, as mentioned, by around 2270. So it's a great order. Similarly, India is also a signatory to the Sustainable Developmental Goals. There are 17 Sustainable Development Goals. The whole focus has been everybody should be provided with the food, protection, or the home, and the bottom of the pyramid needs to be improved, and the per capita income of every individual should be such that he can have a decent living. But that deadline was 2030, and now we find that due to the COVID, there has been a further gap between the rich and the poor, or the urban and the rural area, and the per capita income has also suffered, and the sustainable development would not be fully in place. The other side, corporates are also have to be responsible. They have to have a responsible reporting. They have to have a responsible corporate governance, and they have to have a concern for environment, social, as well as the governance. So that is the ESG, which is in now coming all over the world, and that ensures the endurance value of the organization. Their value proposition in terms of the market also will enhance with they follow the ESG. So in the background of these, so today the leaders have to exhibit complete a new set of traits, skills, and they have to bring these required changes in their own organization, in their own corporates, as well as in the society, and the leaders have to bring to the country. And moreover, the technology has been now, in the last 2 years, technology has been adopted greater length. The entire thing has been moved to the cloud, and the modernization and the upgradation of the technology, whatever gadgets have been taking place with a lot of innovation. Other side, there is a threat of cyber security, data theft, and the leaders have to take care, see that the prestigious, or very precious data, each of the organization is not getting taken over or leaked, or that results in a lot of financial also problems. The other side, there are a lot of financial frauds also taking place. So in the light of that, why I'm bringing all this is in the context of when we say changing landscape of leadership and changing environment, all these matters becomes very, very, very important. So even though for today's question, it will be difficult for us to cover all the subjects in respect of these various points which I mentioned, but at least we can make a beginning. And the Rotary, our District 318, under the leadership development, thought it fit to bring this subject. At the same time, as an NCube collaboration also, we are a think tank organization. On the 7th of January, we brought out one full day program connecting the future ready leaders, and more than 25 speakers spoke on this. So we have been finding that against the various technical subjects, the other area is human resource development, individual leadership development, self awareness and the self getting the what you call necessary momentum. We need to have a momentum effect, and every person, every institution, we need to care for the culture, ethics, values, and they have to take care. The customers, of course, they have to take care, but the inner customer, they are more important than the other customer also, because this is inner customers who will bring that experience of new experience to the external customers. So if I talk on the, of course, this is certain what you call a presentation. If our actions inspire others to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more, and you are a leader. Johnny Quincy Adams. So there are on the inspires, motivates, or innovates, communication, ethical, command, team player. There are certain aspects which are covered here. And Priyanjali, the next. So the leader has to be a manager, but all the managers are not leaders. So there is everybody, because we rise from the bottom of the whatever, no, in the hierarchy, until we have a full background of the background feeling, or means the bottom of the pyramid feeling, we cannot be a leader. So we have to move from the manager level, and there will be a lot of managers who are the followers, and the leader has the responsibility to give them necessary career progression, a greater satisfaction, and greater delight. And everybody should start owning the company. So long as there is no ownership, you don't find much brand value of the organization. So the more the ownership, everybody has to feel that I am the owner of this company. So I used to say in my organization also, where I led, that you are all of you are what you call qualified, as well as you are required to think that you are the CEO or you are the CMD of the bank. And when that feeling comes, and when that ownership comes, then the performance starts from the bottom, and it is not the top level whatever aspiration only goes to the bottom, and bottom respond to that. Both will tally, and that's where the shared values, shared goal, shared vision, and shared mission becomes very important in achieving the greater goals. So I know I am aware of my time limit, and so this is the, of course, leadership in the changing global landscape. Progress is impossible without change, and those who cannot change their minds cannot change anything. George Bernard Shaw. So in terms of the design and innovate, inspire and motivate, speculate the environment, risk, they have to be risk taker. One more important is all of us have to take calculated risk, and the risk trade-off is an essential part of the leadership. And but at the same time, we have to take the interest of the minorities or shareholders, or interest of the every section of the society in terms of the risk taking, and we have to bring prosperity to all. So there must be a unity of command, unity of action, and unity of leadership. And we have to need to predictive analysis, and by we have to be see the future predictiveness, because if you remain static or if you become constant, the change will take away and you will be wiped out. That's what happening. A lot of new technology companies, startups, and all, they are now disrupting the entire system, and the market valuation has completely changed vis-a-vis the old company and vis-a-vis the new company. So my panel will talk on that, and we should be take timely action. With this brief my talk, I have the pleasure now taking to the what you call our esteemed panel. And at the first, I would like to ask Professor Jagdish. You know that Jagdish has been has given the leadership input to quite a lot of global what you call leaders, not only India, all the whole, and he has been a corporate strategist also, giving guidance. So on the theme of the conference, Professor Jagdish Saab, I would like to start with your opening comments, sir.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Actually, it is very humbling that here I am, a retired person, talking amongst people who are already leaders. practice leaders like yourself, for example, a chairman, and there are all these very high what shall I say, successful practicing leaders, and it really humbles me. So what I may speak may sound kind of very ephemeral, very what shall I, shallow, but please do forgive me. Therefore, in order to be different, with your permission, I would like to begin with a little poem. This poem is by Walt Whitman, who is a mystic poet of the 19th century. And the poem goes like this. I won't read the entire poem. I'm just taking the first and last, the middle of that part of it. I'm not to describe only relevant parts of it. It goes like this. Captain, oh Captain, my Captain, our fearful trip is done. The ship has weathered every wreck. The prize we sought is won. The port is near. The bells are here. People are exulting. While fellow eyes the steady keel, the vessel grim and daring. But oh heart, 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 oh the bleeding drops of red, where on the deck my captain lies, fallen cold and dead. Now, he's a mystic poet, so I should actually explain the metaphor. There's a lot of metaphors in this. So you do understand when I say captain, captain, you're really talking about somebody who's going to lead, right? And as you see that, the ship has weathered every road. So when you go and reach the goal, the ship has reached the port, it has to weather a lot of storm, weather a lot of, who is the person? Who is the captain who takes us through this storm, right? And the ship has weathered all this. And ultimately, it seems the prize has won, that you had sought for a prize, the goal, and this organization system has won that goal. So while there are people are exulting, while you can hear the ringing bells of victory, what does he say? Oh heart, there is a red drop, which is a shiny reward actually, so blood. This is metaphorically. And where on the deck my captain lies? Where is he? He is the one who led us, who weathered the storm. Where is he? He's lying dead. It means say it's such a tiring effort. He's exhausted. He doesn't crave that. He doesn't crave that all those belting. He doesn't crave the reward. The reward is required. He is restored. It's a much longer poem. There are many things in between. I don't want to go through that. Look at the power of metaphorism there. Why did I bring out this poem? Why did I want to start with this poem? Just this. Today, the topic of this subject is leadership in the changing landscape. Milton wrote this in the 19th century, 1837 or something like that. The landscape hasn't changed. So the leadership, the coach, the captain, is not a task. It's not something that is done. It is the quality of the person, the captain. It is this that is what matters. And this that is what we're the stop. Bringing it to systems theory, which of course is my favorite subject of system philosophy, you want to say, you see, organizations or even society are systems. We call them living systems, where all the entities that are there, which is made to achieve a particular purpose. Your organization, for that matter, you achieve a certain purpose. Your society is designed to make it. Your family is designed to achieve a certain purpose. So you put certain entities, the human beings, the capital, the material, everything together. So you have a conceptual boundary around it. Everything outside the boundary is called the environment. This system within the boundary is like the ship. And where does the ship sail? In the ocean. The environment is the ocean. And that ocean can be turbulent all the time. So, sir, what the captain or the leader does is to steer the ship towards its goal. And when he or she tries to steer this, you're bound to experience turbulence. The classic example is this. When you have a paper boat, many of us have played paper boat, put in a small tank of water, it remains still, right? Only when you tap the boat to move towards the other end, you create ripples. And when the ripples are created, the larger ripples, the boat starts rocking and the ripples are too large, the boat capsizes. That's exactly what happens. The organization is the ship, the system is the ship, the environment is that turbulent ocean. So what does the captain do? Constantly watches where this turbulence is happening and tries to steer the ship through that turbulence. So the turbulence the earlier days was something else. The turbulence today is caused by something else. Another thing from systems theory is this. All that a leader can control are those within the system, boundary of the system, right? Not the ocean. And research tells us that hardly 15 to 20% of the variables. That means 85 to 90% is outside, not under your control. So what the leader has to do is carefully watch out for those which are not in his or her control and avoid those. And use one's own competence, those variables within one's own control to guide the ship. It goes without saying today, we perceive one turbulence. Where every time the war, the organization face the current turbulence, right? Post-war, there was the Great Depression. Organizations faced a different kind of turbulence. During actually the subprime crisis, how many organizations face turbulence? So turbulence are always different kinds. A leader is one, watches what this turbulence is and moves the ship through that turbulence. Quite often safely, but like what Whitman says, after weathering every wreck, the ship gets damaged. The captain almost dies, but he achieves that goal, that purpose, which itself may be temporary incident, right? That is one of the most important things I wanted to. But then, since we always look for solutions, there's again, you see, they're very famous play. Those of you may be aware of it, called by Beckett. It's called The Waiting for Godot, Godot. I don't know how many have heard of this. So this is a very small play. I don't know. It's called, in fact, play of absurd. There are two tramps, homeless with a fellow. Both are very sick. One has got highly prostrate gland. He can't walk properly. He has to keep urinating all the time. The other one is have got incessant problem. They keep meeting every day, talk about their trouble, and they are waiting for someone called Godot. In the meanwhile, certain things happen. People come. I'm not going to all that. So ultimately, a messenger comes and tells, "Sorry, Godot is not coming today. He'll come tomorrow." So they come again next day. Again, at the end of it, the messenger comes, Godot is not coming today. It goes on. The last scene of the play is, again, the messenger comes, says, Godot is not coming. We don't know whether these two are going to still go to wait or not. What we say these two are, again, metaphorical. See, there are people looking for their misery, full of misery. Okay, illness. One has got disease of prostate, one has got disease of intestine, and they're all waiting for salvation. Somebody will come and rescue them. It's called Godot. That hope is there. That salvation is there. And every evening that man comes and says, sorry, he's not coming today, but they again come back. Is it what leaders should do? We have gone through this turbulence. Are we looking for somebody who will come and tell them, hey, this is what you have to do? This is something you should do. Waiting for Godot. Sorry. Waiting for Godot is relevant in the philosophical terms in what is called existential philosophy, where people are in misery and they look for. That is where we should not look for. So we are not waiting for Godot. Just to this part of it, I'd like to conclude because I would like to listen to more before I can say something else on this. And I need to triggered because I can be pretty blunt at certain times. Since you are looking for solutions, one of the things that did was there is this person who called Bill George. I don't know how many have heard of him, and his book called North, Being North. See, what he did was he was actually a leader and a president and owner of a very big company and several entrepreneurs. He used to actually be a venture capitalist and all that. So what he did was he talked to about 125. He's had more than 125 leaders across the globe. and found out what are the characteristics. See, I told you earlier, it's the person, it's not the environment, it's not the particular landscape, it's the people who matter. So he found out what, mainly because he wanted to launch a course, which still became a very big popular course, okay, on leadership in the Harvard Business School. And particularly it became a very big popular course for all executives. Is this on leadership is being known. And after 125 people, I'm just going to summarize what he said. He said nothing. He just pointed out these 5 characteristics that a true leadership has. One is, a leader has a purpose. I talked to you about the purpose of systems, but the leader himself or herself must have a purpose where the organization or the system has to go through. Values. Every one of them had a value. Okay, what is value, etc. During question hours, probably we can discuss that. Relationships. A leader is not one who isolates himself in a system, in an organization, environment. He relates to people. He has a lot of relationships. He respects relationships. He promotes relationships. He has a lot of self-confidence. And finally, he has a heart. So these are 5 attributes he's found, and he created an entire course on this. I would just like to conclude just one point that I've seen. You see, I used to conduct a fairly successful workshop for many years on managing people in software. I'm basically an IT person and I do a lot of software development, advice software. Managing people in software projects. It is not related to HRD. It is based only on my observation during my consulting work in software organization. And there are several issues, very critical issues there, which I'm not going to talk about. So when I used to conduct, the first thing I would ask them, they're good participants. They're all very senior leaders, so-called leaders of project managers, okay, vice presidents, and so on and so on. People with 5, 6 years or even 10 years of experience, very senior people in the software industry would attend. First thing I would ask them is, what do you expect out of this program? Invariably, they would all say, after this program, I would like to know, should be able to motivate my people. Invariably, most of them. I used to disappoint them at the end of listening to them, because I would like to organize the course based on what they heard. I would say, I'm sorry, I cannot do that. Help you with that. To me, the moment say how to motivate the person, how do I control that other person? A true leader does not talk about controlling somebody. In fact, it's immoral. What you can do is motivate yourself so that they can follow. Because even dictionary meaning of leadership is someone who shows the way. You don't want somebody to follow. Imagine following. What happened to Hitler? People followed him, and what a disaster it was. Right? So at this moment, there are many more things. I will talk to authoritarian leadership is there, subjective, objective. Maybe later, as the discussion will come. At this moment, I'd like to stop. Thank you. I'd like to listen to most of you. Thanks.
Thank you, Professor Jagadish Sab, that you have brought a very good start, and that too thrilling with the poem. Then also how a captain will lead the, suppose sinking ship or turbulence or whatever challenges come. How do you do that? Similarly, how in times of necessity, how the leader should be born out of our own, instead of simply waiting for somebody, you have to. And the 5 leadership quality, I was very much on the value. And the last one you said, the heart, very, very important. So with that, we'll continue that. And because our Professor Dr. Aman Agarwal, he is a very leader of extraordinary, leadership, and leader of par excellence. And the Indian Institute of Science, which is formed by his father and now led by him and his entire team, of course, his whole family members. And they are always been a very large research, globally connected. Another thing is connectivity, totally, and they do very research conference also. So he has seen the world, whether it's a World Bank or Asian Development Bank or any such conference. He has been straight away, he stand and he will ask questions or he will give his opinion. So with that, we can get some more inputs on the essential traits of leaders, particularly in the changing landscape. So Professor Dr. Aman Agarwal ji, it is your turn, sir. Yeah, you can unmute. Yeah, please.
Thank you, Dr. Narendran. It's a pleasure listening to you, your views first, and Dr. Jagdish, Professor Jagdish from IIF. Yeah, I would try to add, basically a professor, I am not a leader, although Dr. Narendran is very kind to put me in that frame of leadership, but then I personally feel I'm a trainer and a teacher, and I'm proud of the fact that I have some very good students of mine who are leading not only organizations, but different walks of life, whether it is dance, art, or even in politics. So from that perspective, I feel proud of creating some good leaders. I don't know if they truly are fulfilling the definitions which Dr. Jagdish and Dr. Narendra laid out. I would like to thank Rotary and all its members to have considered inviting me. I've had a long association with Rotary. I've addressed various Rotary forums, as well as my parents were Rotarian as well. So I've had that connect when I was as a child attending some Rotary meetings, and the kind of service to the humanity and service to the people of the world the Rotarians have been doing for almost decades now, I would say almost a century now. With that, I would like to come to brief comments which I had. In fact, incidentally, when Dr. Narendra spoke to me about a couple of days back, the same day I heard a small video from a Nobel Prize winner, Nobel Peace Prize winner, Desmond Tutu from Africa, who got the Nobel Prize in 2007. And he beautifully outlined some very critical and important components of what the leader were in that 2-minute video, which is kept on the Nobel Prize Facebook page and also on the Nobel Prize website. And which he said was, and I'd like to reiterate some of them before I give my inputs, that leader is one who leads on behalf. A leader is one who leads for the sake of people. Leader is one who leads by suffering. Leader is one who inspires the best in people. A leader is one who grows aspirations. He bluntly pointed out the leader is someone who is first a servant, then a master. A very critical component, and to this he gave the example of Mother Teresa, Mahatma Gandhi, Nelson Mandela, Martin Luther King, and many others who had been leaders in their own spheres, created by the people and recognized by the people as leaders. He also went out in saying that leader is someone who does not seek self-glorification. Many of us today, whether in the corporate world, academic world, or even in political arenas, typically tend to self-glorify. And certainly in the minds of people, we tend to become or look like leaders, but that is what he bluntly pointed out is something which must not be visible in case of a leader. It has to come from the aura around and not from self-glorification. And this is where he said the leader is someone who needs to sacrifice for those he leads and serves. A very important component, which he said again multiple times, is serving, being a servant, wanting to take the sufferings, motivate people, inspire and aspire, and so on and so forth. So these are some things which a Nobel Prize winner who talked about coming from Africa, where we have seen a lot of lack of opportunities, unfortunate incidences, which have created some great leaders. But beyond that, we do also see that there are some key critical components, which in my opinion are important. Before I go to some of those components in the next 1 minute or so, I thought I would like to also talk about, since Dr. Narendra just mentioned born as a leader at times. So where does a leader come from? Again, is a very mysterious thing. If you look in academics, we've still not been able to come out with clear-cut guidelines like we do SOPs in banks and financial institutions and systems management, where we define that these are the parameters and this is what will define what it's supposed to be, and something which we have still not been able to quantify when it comes to pure leadership. We have seen grassroots growth, where people have grown from the grassroots level, like Mother Teresa, who did not belong here in India, but then created a niche for herself being in India. Mahatma Gandhi, who started his journey of leadership from Africa, not being in India, while he born and brought up in India, served in India, and then got educated in the UK as well. So there are some grassroots levels which are there. Then there are some leaders which I have seen in terms of academic text coming as imposed from the top. So there are people who are put in position and then they grow as leaders. Then there are some, like Narendra ji mentioned when he showed this slide on leadership and leaders and managers, that all leaders are managers, but not all managers are leaders, is that they grow while learning. And this is something which is important, where some people like Dr. Narendra ji, who has grown up the ladder and shown a charisma in terms of leadership. And he has known that some of, very few of bankers are truly leaders. Many claim just because they became chairman, but many few can lead like Dr. Narendra has done and created his own niche and structures and followerships without any self-qualification which has been there. Then there are inheritance leaders. I think there has been a lot of debate in politics about it, so I don't need to talk about them, but there are inheritance leaders also, whether it is in terms of religion or in terms of politics or in terms of corporate leadership. We have seen those inheritance leaders. And so we cannot even define that whether they are not or they fulfill, but then they at times, come to the fact to be known, and they've grown, systems are created, frameworks are created where they typically become leaders. Then there are some of them who grow as features depending on their professions. Like in academics, many a times we achieve leadership, not in terms of administrative leadership, but leadership by being even independent. Einstein used to be isolated. Now, he is a leader in science. Newton used to be fairly isolated. He was a leader. He is someone we talk of every second day. Every child talks of him. He is a leader who inspires even today. There are scientists like many of them who live in isolation, have typically no connectivity, which is an important component of leadership, but still are leaders because they connect through their works. So there are those who get this leadership inheritance coming in from the profession they embrace. And lastly, in any case, most of the points are discussed. But as Jagdish ji was also talking about, Narendra ji has kept the topic of leadership in changing landscapes. This was giving me a thought for a couple of days. When do we not see these changing landscapes? As I say, the only constant is change. So when the only constant is change, we are always in troubled waters. Would the leaders, when banks were nationalized in this country, were they not challenging times? When we got independence and banks were merged to create the Reserve Bank of India, were they not challenging times? When India was under the rule of the British and everything was being taken away by even organizations created on this land in India, were they not challenging times? I think we have challenges like Professor Jagdish talked about: wars, tsunamis, financial meltdowns, debacles, all different kinds. This coronavirus, now this Ukraine-Russia war, every one of them creates a different kind of a challenge in everyone's walks of life as a leader. Whether it's a question of leading a small firm or a large firm or a country or a region or even an institution or in academic research. So in my opinion, embracing that uncertainty is a very important and key component which a leader must project and embrace. Apart from which you always have resilience, empathy, while being decisive, transparency, which induces engagement. And here I would say, with the way we have moved to a virtual world, we will see artificial intelligence play a critical role and also demolish some of the old known concepts of leadership when we look at the transparency and structures being introduced by artificial intelligence and the emergence of new forms of leaderships coming up. Small girl, climate change, which Dr. Narendra mentioned, small girl in Nordic country, in Nordic Europe, which is fairly unknown, people don't know about, they think it's not even part of Europe. So that girl has shook this world apart, invited to address at international forums, which people dream of, has emerged to be a leader in the frame way. So this is something which the artificial intelligence and the new world is bringing forth to us. Certainly, connectedness, connectivity and collaborations are there, but an appropriate balance, which is going to empower people. I know a couple of industrialists who always talk about the fact that they want to see their employees grow and grow bigger than them. They don't want their people to be sticking to them and their organizations for the rest of their lives. They feel empowered when they empower some of these people to be going to be entrepreneurs, leading their own firms, leading their own lives and marching ahead. And this is something which I certainly feel is that embracing this empowering component also induces leadership. So with that initial remarks, Dr.
Yeah,
Like
thank you, Dr. Aman Agarwal ji. That the first one you mentioned about that video, some of the from the Japanese, Japanese
he's
leader.
an African Nobel Prize winner.
Nobel Prize
Desmond
winner.
Tutu.
Leads by suffering and inspire breast or seek, do not seek such glorification, sacrifice repeatedly for serving. Really, very coming out of such great leaders and Nobel Prize winners. It is there for the young generation to emulate, and the qualities of other various other leaders also from your experience and other things, and also you brought some of the Mother Teresa, Mahatma Gandhi, because today we need a short of such role models, and particularly when we find there is a lot of difference between old leaders and the new leaders or the young and old. Now the young generation basically are good, but there needs to be mentoring, giving a proper direction, and the senior leaders or the old leaders have a responsibility of that. How many of us are really mentoring our own family, children or others? And everybody is concerned about themselves, but they don't much give that in a greater heart. Another thing is you have to give it the greater love and heart, what Professor Jagdish also said. So, Agar Ramanji, I will come back to you. And I have Dr. Diwakar Goyal, who is the chairman of the Aero Academy of Science and Management, who is also one of the present in this program. I wanted to recognize his presence. Similarly, there are other professors who are in our midst. Dr. Siddharth is there and Mr. Saini is there. So Mr. Farid Ahmad, there is a lot of questions towards bankers also. So you can go through that later and you must be able to answer that, because they say that India in the current junction needs a very, effective banker leaders. And the banking industry and the financial sector is getting into a very transformation process. And we have come out of all the whatever difficulty, and we are now entering into a new arena of where there is a very fresh green shot of business. So how a leaders can take that and also contribute to the economic growth, and particularly India also, in spite of all that, we are not ensured the bottom of the pyramid much growth, and the difference between haves and have-nots are still widening. So with your such a 40 years of banking experience and your research and your knowledge on the relevance of the leaders in the changing landscape, and also from the angle of the changing technology transformation, and in overall the banking sector also you can cover. Dr. Farid Ahmad. You can unmute, Udupa. Unmute. You have to unmute, Farid. Yeah.
Very good evening, friends. At the outset, I am thankful to Rotary District 3181 and NQB collaborations, and particularly Dr. Aman Narendra for making me to associated with this eminent panel on discussion on the leadership in changing landscape. As Dr. Aman Agarwal and Professor Jagdish sir told, that there are different characteristics or traits are required for the leaders today. No doubt, as Aman Agarwal ji was emphasizing on the artificial intelligence and other disruptions in the digital world occurring at a very, very phenomenal rate, and technology is bringing about a paradigm shift in the leadership requirement, because it is affecting the all industries, if not all, at least many of the industries in the entire world. So leaders and organizations cannot stay ignorant about the changes and the impacts this technology is going to bring on their own organizations and the entire industries. So leaders need to deal with the unprecedented changes and unpredictable challenges which are expected from the fourth industrial revolution, and the manner in which the leaders will deal with the adoption of artificial intelligence, technology, and other disruptive innovations will going to be decisive in determining the success or the long-term survival of their organizations. So leaders have to create and show their way forward path amid transitions and disruptions, volatility, complexity, and also the ambiguity which is prevailing in the world today. According to me, whatever the traits discussed by Professor Aman Agarwal and Professor Jagdish, they are very, very essential. So I want to touch upon, under this changing landscape, what are the responses expected from the leaders so that they can implement, they can frame the important strategies to overcome these challenges and meet the unpredictable changes in the world. According to me, the first and foremost strategy to be adopted by the leaders in this changing landscape is create a futuristic work culture, which is very, very important, because leaders can create a futuristic and innovative work culture by encouraging their employees to acquire knowledge and skills and putting systems and structures that encourage them to test or the experiment with the new ideas. Because the leaders should not, general tendency is the failures will be penalized by the leaders. So in this context, the leaders should not penalize the failures as a result of taking risk. This is very, very important, because it will encourage the people to test the new ideas, and also to they will take it as an empowerment and do the new things. And the second one is they should provide a authentic change leadership, because the description will test the effectiveness of a leader, how they are able to lead their workforce through the changes. The greatest test of a leader is their level of influence and the ability to drive the positive and desired outcomes. So the authenticity of a leader is a key driver in influencing and driving the change. So leaders who are able to demonstrate the authenticity by being transparent about their changes and demonstrating the integrity are better able to connect and win the support of their teams and the peers in reaching their goals and success of their businesses. And the third response, they have to create a stable environment. They have to create, it is the responsibility of the leader, as a leader, that to create a positive environment where employees will feel inspired about the future, have a clear direction and a sense of where their organization is headed, amidst all the uncertainty caused by the disruption, technology, and still possess the sense of stability. Creating a sense of stability requires a certain level of empathy, as told by Dr. Jagdish ji and also Aman Agarwal ji in the leaders, and it is regarding how employees may be feeling about the uncertainty. Says to the employee, I am there, I see you, I hear you, I understand you. This is what required as a sense of stability. Then connecting with the people. Connecting with the people, it is very important. The leader's ability to connect with their employees or the team members enables them to touch their heart. I think Aman Agarwal ji was telling about it, because it is a touching the heart and building the trust. Because as John Maxwell aptly said, leaders touch a heart before asking for a hand. That is very, very important. So connecting with the team will make the team members to feel they are one, and a sense of assurance and positive influence their attitude towards the change. And the next response required from the leaders is empowering and building the participation and accountability. See, leaders need to empower their teams to work with autonomy and freedom and to take the decisions. Organizations and leaders need to create other leaders at all levels by building participation and accountability. Leaders need to build an environment where people take ownership of the things and they should feel accountable for that. When people are care about their tasks, they are performing and work there with their talent and the soul and heart, great things will happen in the coming days. Then the next response is they should provide a direction, clarity, and purpose. See, leaders need to communicate with the purpose and a clear direction. They need to create a compelling vision among the team so that they can use entire energy of the leader to energize them and inspire them with the inclusive vision. That is the most important in the coming days in the changing landscape. Because Aman Agarwal ji was telling that changes has happened in independence time, Reserve Bank of India, nationalization or the nationalization bank. Yes, at that time, those are the challenges and they were met by our leaders definitely. These are the challenges mainly being caused by this artificial intelligence and other technological disruptions. So the leaders should provide the direction, clarity, and purpose. And they also should empower the people to make the experiments, innovate, and also execute the things. So leaders need to drive innovation, experimentation, and to continuously evolve to meet the dynamic changes from day to day. Then they should build the bridges and finding the solutions. As everybody said, the technology has started the barriers and it reduced the distances. It has made the global world as a village. So the world is now more interconnected than ever. So leaders should understand the value of diversity, inclusion, open-mindedness that can navigate the challenges of technological disruptions. Leaders need understanding various business functions, industries, technologies to conceptualize the right solutions for the new situations and new problems in the present situations. They should create agile teams and quick decision making. The speed at which one will do the things can be the difference between the success of an organization and the failure of the organization in the digital economy in the coming days. So digital leadership requires adaptability to handle pressure and constant changes and take the decisions with the agility and with a quick time. Time makes a lot of difference. Then last response which is required from the leaders in the present day circumstances is they should take the constant evolution of the situation and also the skill reskilling, because the changes, innovations, and disruptive technology will have a significant bearing on the workforces, processes, companies, and industries. Those who can quickly adapt to that, they only will be successful. For that, latest technology skills are required. So the leaders should constantly evaluate and also provide the reskilling techniques to their team members. With this, the leadership can provide whatever required for their team, and also to meet the requirements and needs of all the stakeholders. They can provide by adapting, by responding, in these 5-10 views, 10 ways to the in the changing landscape. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Faridji. That is what all leaders should endeavor to really amongst our workforce, amongst our followers, to build them trust. You mentioned about trust. That is a very, very important trust, confidence, and they should believe in our leadership also. And whenever required, that leadership, when it's tested, how do we respond? And how do you see that you come up to their expectation? Because when it comes, particularly Farid knows that when it comes to accountability, everybody tries to pass on. But if there is a collective accountability, collective, taking any failure also on their shoulders and preparing for another success. So failure is the stepping stone for success. So this, then also on ethical values, very important. How do we show the true ethical values? And then only the culture of the organization also builds up over a period of time. And today we need the flowers of culture to be built fresh in every organization, every individual. And that's where we have to have a introspection. That is where we need to do the SWOT analysis. And I always say that when we want the organization balance sheet to be with a lot of outstanding performance, it is only with the aggregation of individual balance sheet. So every person in the organization first write his own that perfect balance sheet. So everybody should feel proud that I am a part of this balance sheet building or building this organization. So Farid, you brought more than 22 points, and it can be further elaborated. So very, very relevant. And Mohan Raju, that I have seen my relation with you for a lot more than now 20 years. And the Airtel or Jio, both are very competing roles for you. Today, the Jio, you are there. And particularly in the telecommunication sector, or earlier your auto sector, where you are heading a USA company, fully put up the whole new company in India. So in all that, I think as a young leader, you are a very young leader, and you are a future required, or future already, but the corporate, that leadership qualities are with you. So one is, how do we create such more leaders in India? That is more important. And second is, in the private corporate space, what we work in a public sector space and private corporate sector space, there is a lot of difference. So you have seen great leaders, whether Mittalji or Mukesh Ambani or world over leaders. So what are those traits or skills which inspired you as a person also in your those skill? So in this contest, I would like to have your views, Mohan Raju.
Yeah, thank you so much, Narendra sir. I hope I'm audible clearly to all of you.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for having me here, Narendra ji. And thank you, Rotary Club and Incube Collaborations for organizing this wonderful topic of discussion on a nice Sunday afternoon. And I would like to thank all the participants. I see a 82 strong audience who took out time to join on this Sunday afternoon, right? And thanks to all the panelists. It was really inspiring to hear Dr. Jagdish, Dr. Aman, and Dr. Farid, right? Yeah, obviously, I can't articulate the way all of you have articulated with vast amount of your experience. But as Dr. Narendra mentioned, I will be speaking from my practical experience of what are the challenges that a leader faces today, and what kind of leaders are required as we move along in these changing landscape or changing times, right? So, coincidentally, today we are speaking at a very opportune juncture. Yesterday was my child's, I have a 6-year-old daughter whose annual day was there. That was the last day of their session. She's graduating from senior KG to class 1. That's basically a graduation from pre-primary to the primary schooling, right? And it was very inspiring, right? I was invited as the guest of honor for the inaugural ceremony, just to lamp the light along with the teachers and the principals. uh, this was a complete shutdown because of the pandemic. There were no classes. Maharashtra government announced opening of the schools only few days back, right? And these kids were invited to school only for 2 weeks time before the session closes for me. So it was a good decision made by the school that even though it is 2 weeks, but it'll be worthwhile for all of us to invite the children to the school. And you know what? Not only this, they decided as the academic fraternity to even perform an annual day. Now, typically, an annual day of a school is performed with a lot of preparation, right? It typically starts from 3 months of preparation, December, and as the curriculum ends in April, the children perform. But this was something inspiring. Yesterday, when I spoke on the stage, I was very emotional. 2 weeks, children attended school. In this 2 weeks, there were a lot of administrative challenges, right? Parents didn't want to send children to the school. What are the arrangements in the school and so on? And with the management taking the decision that we'll do annual day, all that these little kids had, and mind you, this is little kids, nursery to senior KG, children between 3 years to 5 years age group, 6 years. They had 2 days of stage practice only, 2 days. And you know what? Yesterday was the best annual day ever in 3 years that I attended for pre-primary. So I asked the teacher, I wanted to share my thanks and I got the opportunity to speak at the end for 5 minutes. I asked what brought this out, this fantastic output. And I was absolutely delighted to hear the headmistress say, so we are trying to be better leaders. So I asked, what does leadership mean to you? And it was such a simple answer. In our understanding, leadership is the ability to convert vision into reality, right? And I said, you guys did a fantastic job with these little kids. I haven't seen a better example of leadership where you are a leader in a corporate or a political role and you're dealing with a lot of educated folks, so-called the Ivy Leagues and so on, and dealing with complex challenges. Now that's the output a leadership can bring, right? But yes, I'm quoting this because it's still close to my heart, very fresh. Yesterday, Saturday, annual day. And this is what leadership can do, right? And this is the example that these teachers wanted to set in the minds of these young children so that they become leaders of tomorrow. A phenomenal example. As a father, I feel proud to quote this, right? But yes, with that as the start, today, as leaders today, I would like to touch on what are the core challenges that leaders are tackling with today, and what will leaders continue to tackle, right? So there are three primary things as we lead, organizations or goals, right? For any organization or any initiative, three primary changes are happening fundamentally to all of us today. The rate of change, right? Rate of change has been faster than ever before. Point number one, and it will only continue to increase. And I would relate this to what Dr. Jagdish gave as an example: the ripples when you try to push the paper boat forward. Now the ripples are faster than ever before. Rate of change, the frequency, right? So this is only going to increase. And today, as leaders, we have to learn real time. Doesn't matter whichever level you are in organization, let it be a corporate, let it be academic, let it be political. But the rate of change has been faster than ever before. And today we all are grappling or learning to be the to understand the rate of change and quickly adapt and devise ways forward, right? And the second point, or the second major hurdle today that leaders face is being knowledgeable, right? Traditionally, what does come in mind when you see a leader? Oh, he's the most knowledgeable, right? Oh, he's the most experienced. But today, let me ask you, who's a artificial intelligence leader today? Technically, nobody exists around the world. Everybody is as good, right? If somebody says, okay, I'm an artificial intelligence leader, probably it'll be wrong to say. We are all at an equal juncture, right? So the ability to cope up with the latest happenings and the knowledge so that you can devise the right frameworks. Again, as Dr. Jagdish mentioned, the environment is the framework. right? So that you can define the frameworks with the right knowledge is the second biggest challenge. And you have to grapple with this as you run the show, wherever you are, right? And the third biggest challenge is cultural evolution, right? The work cultures are changing very fast. And there are two aspects to it. One, I think Dr. Farid touched on it. Technology is enabling a lot of things. I like the quote that he mentioned. The world has become a village. It has diminished boundaries, right? So that's a new environment altogether. And second biggest thing, today the team's composition that you have to deal with is far different than what it was at any given point of time. Today, in the same team, you'll have very experienced people versus a brand new fresher who will be the brightest idea. You as a leader has to rely on his ideas for the success of your organization. Now, who's leading whom here? This is called as reverse mentoring, right? But yes, while today in the context of leadership, we have to be very agile. We have to be very open to be learning from anybody across the organization, across the environment, across the ecosystems to bring out the best. So there's nothing called senior or junior, right? So this is a very different culture than traditionally what organizations are used to, right? And this will only increase. And some of these examples, as I see, I was fortunate enough to visit, a Facebook office in Santa Clara, and I had the opportunity to visit the floor where Mark sits. I thought it would be his floor. That was the image in my mind. And you know what? I was surprised. He was sitting on a flat bench with many developers around. Can you imagine? That was Mark Zuckerberg's everyday thing. There was no fixed tag parking for Mark Zuckerberg in the Facebook office. But that's the new style of leadership, right? He wants to sit with the latest developers who have come from, the latest institutes, right? Ivy League technical colleges. But that's new style of culture. That's the new culture that's around. But yes, in a nutshell, I think three most important things. One is being able to adapt to the rate of change is very important. If you don't adapt, probably you will perish as a leader. You'll be no longer relevant, right? And second is, the knowledgeability of the leader itself. How do you deal with subjects which you have never learned? How do you deal with subjects which you have never experienced, hands-on experience with? Third, being very agile to cultural changes, right? So that's in a little bit of a background of three major changes today, what leaders of organizations face, right? And when I say organizations, it's not only corporate, it could be corporate, it could be academic, it could be policy making as political leaders, right? So all the walks of life, right? The second part that I want to highlight, the pandemic has been a great teacher. And I think the lessons learned in this pandemic give us a very right foundation to evolve the leadership skills of the near future, right? Now, obviously, the pandemic was completely unanticipated and had a devastating impact on people and lives. It deeply impacted not only business scenarios, but personal circumstances and lives of people and their families. So it took time for all of us to understand what was really happening and what would happen the next day. We couldn't anticipate, right? Every day had to be observed and acted to. So first, if you observe the patterns of how we behaved as leaders, first, obviously, across the board, there were knee-jerk reactions of we recluding to safety, lockdowns, living by essential services, work from home, job losses, and a whole bunch of new things. It was different for everybody, right? Second, there was a business impact at scale. The global economy, stock exchanges started reacting everywhere, which led to addition of ambiguity in all our lives as to what was really happening. But as we learned the possible techniques to take the situation to stride slowly and steadily, things started to look upwards. It took great effort to implement the anticipated measures for leaders, like creating new scenarios, to work with minimal staff on the shop floor, creating an environment which facilitates safe working environment, how to effectively facilitate work from home company-wide to bring productivity levels to as normal as possible, right? Now for leaders, look at it. It took great courage. This was all on the fly as pandemic was happening. People were dying, lockdowns were happening, no vaccines to be heard. Now, but as leaders, it took us great courage to devise these mechanisms really quickly, right? and have the self-confidence that these measures will work. Now, where do you derive that confidence? This is out of no experience. It's first time for everybody. But that confidence was important because if anything was to go wrong, it had potential risks, life risks associated, right? If any of the worker on the shop floor was getting impacted, we were palpitating. We were praying that nothing happens to his life, right? But those were the scenarios we had to kind of go through, right? As leaders, vaccines were yet to be in sight at the beginning of the pandemic, and then communicating this whole vision to the teams in a convincing manner. Irrespective of these efforts, there were many challenges. Families were not okay for their family members to attend to work. We saw many resignations when people were requested if they can attend to work, and so on. It was extremely difficult and more importantly, a very, very sensitive situation. But as time passed by, with great thought, effort, and forthcomingness of the teams and the people, the wheel started to move slowly towards a new normal. And that became a new way of life, which was inspiring confidence, right? And as a leader, you had to handhold each and every moment, each and every emotion of people to put this new normal on the ground, right? And obviously, with vaccines being announced and rolled out globally, the hope and confidence to return to normalcy was brighter than ever before amongst all of us, right? And more importantly, as a country, we were doing better than most countries, including developed nations, in terms of controlling the pandemic. Hats off to our current Prime Minister. We led by example, and today we did better than any other country in terms of controlling the pandemic. Now, that's a shining example of leadership to a complex problem like tackling with the pandemic, right? But yeah, overall, the pandemic was a great lesson to strengthen leadership experience at all levels. We had phenomenal experience as while dealing with these situations, in my experience, right? But yes, how do we? So these are some of the skills which will be valued as leadership skills in the near future, right? So what are they? Adapting quickly to new workways. These are significant things that leaders will be expected to kind of embrace. One, adapting quickly to new workways. There'll be more remote working, work from home. Uh, Teams will be more virtual, spread across geography. Organizations will be officeless. Now we'll get used to it. Many organizations are planning to consolidate offices. It'll not be a surprise if an organization says we don't have office, we all are virtual. But those things will be new normal as we move forward, right? Second, most important is defining the frameworks for the new normal of working. I think that's a significant responsibility each leader will carry, right? How do leaders adapt to this? Most leaders today have zero experience in working in a completely virtual world, even the westernized developed countries. But this is a completely new paradigm. So new processes and working guidelines need to be put in place to set the new workplace effectively in motion, bringing back productivity to normal levels and for witnessing enhanced productivity levels as we move forward, right? The third is ability or embracing a whole new culture. These new workplaces will bring in significant cultural shifts, right? They are beginning to evolve already as we reel out of the pandemic. We have been quick to adapt to the needs, but these culture is a new for everyone, and everybody is experiencing the first time. So we need to be agile and more open than ever before to cultural changes, right? As an example, today I see, this is an end of a financial year, and there are appraisal rounds going on in most organizations, right? Now, there are most managers and leaders who came back. I can't have a difficult conversation virtually. I need to meet him, right? But these are the new scenarios. This is just one example, and these scenarios will become new normal workways, right? And as
Oh,
Dr. Farid mentioned, technology.
Mohan, I will come back to
Yes,
you. Yeah, because
yes, Dr. Narendra.
yeah, so you another 3 minutes you finish. But
Yes,
we'll have. Yeah, please.
sure. And the other point, as Dr. Farid mentioned, technology will play a major component in all our workways. Today we are virtual. We use collaboration tools with an average time of 7 hours 28 minutes every day, as per the technology platforms. This will only increase. And on top of this, there are new technologies that are coming in the next 2 years. Virtual reality and mixed reality will become a true workway, which is kind of largely being coined as metaverse as we move forward. We will have to be ready for these kind of lifestyle adaptations, right? So yeah, I think these are some of the thoughts that I would like to share. But yes, I would like to hand over to Dr. Narendra,
Yeah, yeah.
in the interest of time.
Correct.
Over to you.
Thank you, Mohan Raj. Yes, you brought quite a lot of our what you call critical aspect when we faced with the pandemic, and how nation, people, organization, corporates, education institutions, professionals, every section, how they could manage to the human resilience, business continuity, crisis plans, transparency, technology, self-confidence, self-regulation, or exemplary leadership, be empathetic to team, and be communicated with them team. There are quite a lot of such aspect you brought in your discussion, and we'll come back to you. We have actually we had the Dr. Goel. I wanted him to give one or two words, but he interacted with us in in that lot. We can take some of his views later. I request the panelists to go through that, but he had to leave us for some other conference to address. And I recognize the efforts of BBBK Rao, as well as so many others, and also the Goel, be in the part of this program. Quite a lot of our, including Rotarian. We have Rotarian Manivannam from Coimbatore. He's also with us. So my lot of friends have come, and also from the Rotary also have come. So that I recognize them. And we have now Sanjay Za from Mahindra First Choice. He was on a travel. His flight got 5 hours late. Sanjay ji, you are there?
Yes, I'm very much here. And actually, let me tell you, I am nervous. I am nervous because of two reasons. Let me honestly confess. Among this eminent panelist, I'm just wondering what value I can bring. And the second thing is that you will be wondering why my video is off. Actually, I'm at a place where light is just coming and going. So there is no light. So
I know. So this gives that we have a great what you call fiber connectivity program. More than 6 lakh villages are to be connected. The government has been doing, but the progress has been very slow. That is where during COVID also people have to do the banking at the remotest of the place. And that's where the new fintech apps and other things came in handy. So Mr. Sanjay is representing Mahindra Group. You know, the Mahindra also one of the famous organization for not only innovation but also human leadership. So Sanjay ji, how do we on the human aspect of the leadership? That is one I expect from you.
Thank
Second,
you.
I also expect how because another important is the emotional intelligence, as well as our what you call spiritual intelligence. That is also very important. So how the spiritual leadership also very important. And third is that you have seen, of course, Mohan Raju, I wanted that to cover. You have seen global leaders, and even within the organization, our Mahindra, and you have such a wonderful bosses, and you have seen the leadership with them. So what are those traits of role models which you can narrate, and also from the greatest authors of management also, if you have something to narrate. So this within the limited time you have to cover 3 aspects: human leadership, spiritual leadership, and role model leadership. Yes.
Sure. So let me start with what George Land he described as the transformation theory in 1927, and he introduced the concept of S curve. He said that every system has to go through the invention, then being there, maintenance phase, and then again recreate itself. And this world had seen, in fact, the S-curve, so to speak. But when the first industrial revolution happened, the steam engine was introduced, the S-curve was not as steep. Okay, then come the introduction of electricity, second industrial revolution, the S curve became steep. The new workplace, the new work design, etc., was introduced. It was the era of mass production, standardization. The shift concept came in place, and then the we kind of with the introduction of this transistor, the digitalization started 70 years ago. Well, it took quite some time to realize us that we need to change our workplace, our workers, and our work design aligned with the sort of digitalization led the transformation. But that took quite some time. On 24 March 2020, when COVID happened, before that, we used to talk about VUCA world, new normal, etc. In some, I would say, in humble way, esoteric sense, so to speak, during training program. But suddenly we realized that what does this VUCA actually mean? What this new normal actually means? So now we are in a stage where, we are living this VUCA thing every day. Like a very kind of normal thing. So it is very important, and this I'm telling you based on the experience of what we are going through in our current organization. Dr. Mepari, you know that we are in the space of used vehicle ecosystem, so to speak, which is kind of yet to get fully organized, and we are the pioneer who took sort of charge to organize Indian used car industry. So this new industry, the organizing the sort of unorganized industry provides you one side humongous opportunity, but other side a lot of ambiguity, a lot of challenges, and there the leadership role becomes quite sort of different than what generally leaders would kind of behave in an established organization. So when I sort of reflect and relate with the leadership I'm seeing in this kind of space, I'm clearly seeing that leaders have to play very, very crucial role. Because see, in this space, yesterday cannot be the predictor of today or tomorrow. I mean, tomorrow is not the linear extrapolation of today. In fact, it reminds me Albert Einstein's famous quote when he said that thanks to gravity, in this space, there is nothing called linearity. There is nothing. I mean, the shortest distance between 2 points is not a straight line. He said that there is no straight line, and the Newtonian mechanics got collapsed. And he said that we have only curvilinear, only curves. So same goes with the actual reality of our life and the business life as well. So leader has to be. I would say I would use the term of Dr. Ramcharan, who says that leaders should have, and for that matter, everybody should have the perceptual equity, where his or her every sense organ should be fully active, fully working, and should kind of see beyond what one normal person can see, can listen beyond what normal person can listen, can kind of sense what beyond what normal person can sense. So leader has to play a very, very important role. In one hand, to kind of think that how can what new unique value proposition I can kind of come up with. How can I create the new S curve, so to speak, after getting the sense that I am at the peak of the S curve, and same time how to inspire the team members. And before that, I would say that how to handpick the great people who could kind of take charge of driving first of all, conceiving the innovative ideas and driving the implementation, so to speak. So then leaders need to have a lot of empathy, lot of appreciation for this fact that with time, the jobs could be irrelevant. So how quickly I can train my people. How can I sensitize them that, you should be kind of, looking opportunity in adjacent areas? How, the leader can sensitize the employees, the team members, that don't go by the job description per se, because you never know. In the age of this, digital era, this job can be sort of, broken down into multiple tasks. And this, those routine work can be taken up by the artificial intelligence or the machine, so to speak. So what is important that one should focus on the skill. Like, let me give you my example. My CEO felt that I am good in relationship management. So I was handling HR, and one fine day he said that, I want you to develop, I want you also to handle business development, because you are good in relationship management. The way you are managing the relationship with employees, I think you could succeed in managing the relationship with the customer as well. Well, with a lot of hesitation, I took charge, but this is a great learning that by the grace of God, I'm kind of, doing good job. So leaders need to have a lot of empathy, a lot of sensitivity towards employees for their skill building in the adjacent areas. Then leaders should also
now it's okay.
Disruptions are going on, and so the psychological and physical health, these things are also important. For employee branding point of view, the organization which will be sort of, sensitive and implementing the good practices in these areas, those organizations will be really seen as a great organization. Now, coming to this spiritual leadership. So I am from the place called Mithila, which is Janki, Sitaji is the birthplace. And it reminds me that Raja Janak, who was father of Sitaji, he was a great spiritual leader, I would say. In his time, he would kind of, he would invite the various philosophers, intellectuals, having the diverse sort of, views about life, about God, about, religion, etc. And he will facilitate that discussion. And, the idea was that we are not the accumulation of or the heap of the food we are eating called body, or we are not the recycle of the thoughts called our mind. We are much beyond that. And so who are we? Can we explore that? And so leader, the spiritual leader can sort of, be distance himself from the employee, like a mentor, like a coach, and should kind of groom the people and same time enjoy how his people are growing. So that said, then you also wanted me to talk about let me tell you, let me share my experience about Mr. Tata, Ratan Tata. I was witness in 1991 when kind of, globalization was happening in this country, and Mr. Tata took charge, and there was a lot of upheaval. We all know Mr. Modi had to go. And the way Mr. Tata, he kind of, assumed the full responsibility. He said that whatever I am doing, whatever failure will happen, that will be my, I'll be responsible for that. Whatever success we'll get, that will be credited to everybody in the team. And the way he transformed the whole thing, he was at the front. I've been witness to that, and that was a great experience. So
thank you, Sanjay ji. Yeah,
yes.
That is where one I found that every person has been blessed with a lot of leadership. So we have to go beyond our apparent, what are the qualities, and we have to go into our true leadership within and bring out. That is what you mentioned on the spiritual aspect. Similarly, of course, that when the nano failed, how the leaders accepted that. That is also, and where handling innovation and handling there is no prescriptive task. You have to go beyond your comfort zone, and you have to break the what you call barriers or whatever hidden your created your own space and go out beyond that. That is called also blue ocean strategy. And I also reminded of the another one is every street is paved with gold. So we have to see that everything is converted into gold, or everything is created for the growth of the country. So the opportunities come everywhere. That is what we find with the new age technologies or innovators today. So now on the spiritual aspect, our Professor Jagdish and myself, we are having last 2 years quite a lot of meditation experience. Of course, Professor has been in knowing this for more than 20 years. So, sir, how are the spiritual aspect come into the leadership? Because ultimately, in our all that what we do, we ourselves have to get an inner joy, inner feeling that as we responsible when we came to this world, what did we create, and something which was time immemorial. That way we have to create. So I would like to have some on that, and also some of the other aspect you felt that you would cover second. Sir, Professor Jagdish sir. Yes, sir. Now these are all your closing comments, sir. All will be giving the closing comments now. And yours, of course, I mentioned about the spiritual aspect as well as the other aspect which I wanted from you. Yeah.
Yeah, since you spoke about spiritual aspect, so let me address that first. But
Yes.
as you know, it's a very vast subject, and it is probably preposterous for me to assume that I can explain that in a short while. But basically, do we really know what this universe is? Do we really know what our role is there? We have adopted roles, and we have got the ability to create. That's a very fundamental aspect of spirituality. And being aware, creating awareness of what this is. And you see from all what have you been saying about leader is someone who has got to be very aware of things. And fundamentally, it comes from being aware of oneself. I have had the opportunity of interviewing several young graduates for various admissions. I've also had that advantage of recruiting faculty members for these programs, both engineering and MBA. What is surprising me, very few people have the concept of what they are. Do they have a concept of themselves? When I question them, and that is where spirituality comes. And a leadership needs that kind of a concept. I don't know. I'm tempted to, but if I go on in spirituality, I think it'll be too long. But essentially, if I were to summarize, spirituality is something. It is beyond what is you are today. It is having to know. In fact, even a person like Stephen Hawking, a great scientist, has said, the universe is unreal. So what is this unreality that you are talking about? So when we are addressing leadership, is this really real? But you have to handle something which is at least apparently real. It's confusing, but that's what it is all about. That's as far as spirituality is concerned. But some of the other things, there's so many interesting things I've been discussing here, which I'm very tempted to comment upon. But of course, time is limited. And therefore, I feel like a mosquito in a nudist colony. What is the dilemma in mosquito face in nudist colony? It knows what to do, but does not know where to start. So there are so many issues, but just two things I would like to. Now, all of you, my fellow panelists, have been talking particularly in the new world of technology and new world of what's happening. You're talking about what's called knowledge, so on. I would change the word from knowledge to being informed. Now, each one, for example, I am an engineer, electronics engineer. I know more probably of electronics engineering, but I don't know much about finance. The only reason being I'm an MBA, I know something about finance. Otherwise, I wouldn't, right? So, but I should be informed. I'll give you just one somewhat comical experience I had many years ago, and how leadership failed because of not caring to be informed. You see, many years ago, what happened was the PCs, the standalone computers, became very popular, and all the industries started using them, right? And they were expensive, not as they were PCs were as expensive, 1 lakh, 2 lakhs, and things like that. And so all these many companies here were assembled. So we had all Wipro and then PCL and then HCL, everybody selling things. So how did they try to differentiate businesses? What they did was each of these would develop some software exclusively to certain industry, certain people, certain thing they were selling, and build it into the system. And so they were selling at a PC, they were selling it as a system. So one of these that Wipro did was to build a complete, those days banking had just come, 1990, thanks to the Rangachari committee report. They built a system with software to basic ledger keeping of a bank, transactions, ledger keeping, etc., and try to sell it to the banks, built it to the system. So there is one of my former students who was given the charge to sell these to the banks. And once they rang me, Professor, please bless me, give me, I have the fortune of, even seniors keep asking me, I have that relationship with many students. I'm going for a very big, I don't know to name the bank, okay, a very big bank, and I'm going to sell these. Today, I'm going to them, I have your blessing. I said, certainly, principal, I don't have to teach you anything. So in the evening, he called me up. Professor, thank you very much. I sold 20 machines to them. Fine, I was very happy. It happened that one of the general managers I knew personally, and he was a HR general. So I asked him, hey, I believe you people bought 20 machines. So what are you going to do? Is this going to be useful to you? He said, Jagdish, I don't know much about these things, but other general managers have said yes. So I also signed on this. And I'm sure every one of them were done because you won't believe it, those systems which were bought 20 were never used in that bank. So what prevented these people saying, okay, pass on the information? What prevented these people to just ask questions? I always insist, I have been a consultant to many people when looking at IT, etc. I always tell them, see, everyone doesn't have to know anything, but please ask questions. So in that way, being informed is very important. Today, see, there's a senior consultant of Delhi, another consultant, I was talking to them. India missed the manufacturing bus thanks to various policies, and let's give it over to China. Today, we have an opportunity with Industry 4.0 coming to the picture. We can jump. We can go straight away with Industry 4.0 model. And why don't you do that? He also, yes, that's a very good idea. But who's going to wake up? How many people are prepared to look at what Industry 4.0? How many people invest in that? Do we have that? So Industry 4.0 is basically using technology and mostly IoT to manufacture complete. So where connectivity is where the machines talk to each other instead of human beings talk to each other, and we can do quite a lot of things. Why can't we get informed ourselves about that? Okay, I was earlier talking about systems. So where the information comes, I'll tell you. Living systems, organizations are living systems. So are human beings. The difference between human beings and organizations, that human beings are natural systems, organizations are managed systems. But look at how the human being, nature has designed, manages itself. Your finger touches a hot spot, immediately brain sends a signal to the finger to remove your hand. You have no idea what, this is what I call decentralized operations, centralized control. How does this happen? Very strong information network that is there. The respiratory system, the circulatory system, there's no hierarchy between them, but they synchronize each other's operations. How? Exchanging information, right? So this exchange in natural systems is already there. In man-made systems, what happened? Though there was exchange of information, systems were so simple that you never noticed this information exchange was happening. Today, as systems become complex, it becomes a need to consciously realize what kind of information needs to be exchanged in whatever format. Technology, manual, systems, the phase, organized structure, etc. I would like to leave you with just one thing. Extending to this complexity itself, okay, we often feel leaders have to face very complex issues. But you know that quite often for complex problems, solutions can be very simple, provided you apply your mind in it. So what we do in systems theory is we divide into three levels: systems philosophy, systems management, and system analysis. Systems philosophy is where you understand what is the purpose of this. See, every system I told you has a purpose. The ship has a goal, and the ship has to move. And that's why you join it. What is that purpose of the system? Given that purpose, what all can we put together to achieve that purpose? That is cognitive level, that is philosophical level. You don't talk about nitty-gritties. Then you have the systems management where we look what you put together and how do you make coordinate, the informed exchange. Then finally, systems analysis where you look at the basic operational issues and how. A leader is one who actually operates as a philosophy level and lets other people, like you said, inspiration, etc., and their ideas to look at both the systems management level and the systems analysis level. One could talk at length about this, but I hope you made myself understood what I tried to say, and that is what will make modern leaders. Thank you very much.
So thank you, Jagdish ji, that on this last your subject, I think there will be another webinar because of your expertise and knowledge. System purpose, system philosophy, system management, system operation, and how that is linked to leadership. Also, you brought very well. And
systems in my heart, so I can.
Yes, and also you brought that everybody knows knowledge and all, but they don't use the mind or they don't use the knowledge. So where did you the critical part where you immediately give a solution by simple answers are all simple, complex, simple, but some people engage in discussion, and that they enjoy. Final outcome is poor. So that is not what is that? There is sometimes our Farid Ahmad can also say that in some of the organizations, they say there is every time he will have a lot of meetings to attend. But ultimately, the meetings are to result in the outcome and the result, and that should be found in the quarterly results also. So very, very important. So Professor Aman Agarwal ji, that education institutions are creating future leaders, and your institution also. So when they get into I have found when the students get into management studies, that is MBA or higher studies, there is a complete transformation in their overall outlook, knowledge. So what is that we do something differently there, that they come out and they become in everywhere, wherever they create the stamp of that MBA leadership, as well as your institutional leadership also, individual plus institutional. So I would like to have some inputs for the audience as well as their own children, how they should think, because another thing is, even for IAS or such of the top post today, the number of people coming and aspiring that has been very less. So how do we create our youngsters, not merely graduates and all? We need some specialization. That is another area. So from your last thoughts on these two areas.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Narendran. You see, I personally feel that there is a leader in every one of us. It's a question of enlightening that leadership, getting it to the right goalpost and structuring it well, which is required. And this is something which educational institutions across the globe, and even in India, have been fostering. Something which Takshila and Nalanda, which was the first ever set up universities in the world, university set up in 350 BCE, having about 2,000 scholars, that is teachers, and about 10,000 students, pupils at that stage, was something which inspired this spirituality. It is not religion here, this spirituality in terms of inducing and enlightening that leadership within ourselves. And this is where, even when we talk about the startup movement with the current government is fostering, or the stand-up movement, or the women empowerment structures, we are trying to actually nothing else but create those leaders and enlighten those leadership torches within themselves. I think educational institutions like us, or the IIMs and the IIS and others, try and foster and induce the basic key components which we discussed in the first session earlier with Professor Jagdish and others of inducing the empathy, the trustworthiness, the ethical component, how do you go about embracing the uncertainty? We try and provide them with the necessary tools to go about doing that in a shorter span of time. But it is not the focus of institutions like us or anyone else to only create leaders. Because if you do not have followers, there will be no leaders as well. So there has to be every one of us. You cannot have only one class component to be there. And I think from that perspective, all institutions across the globe have created their own niche structures by inducing, giving the right kind of knowledge and creating a citizen of the nation, which can actually not only take the name of the country, the city which he comes from, the village he comes from, or the institution he has studied in, or he is working and contributing for forward, but also create a plethora of people who would be leaders for generations to go ahead. And I think this is something which is very critical. Those leaders, in my opinion, who may have all these aspects which we discussed earlier, but cannot embrace the basic key concept of humanity, which is passing on this knowledge, passing on this empathy to the other, passing on this ability to create more, is something which is critically important. Not only education institutions like us, but even institutions like Dr. Narendra himself are instrumental, in my opinion, or Professor Jagdish, are instrumental in terms of creating some of these leadership structures and frameworks in the society. It is some of these words at times and conclaves like this, which help redefine, restructure, and rethink, and actually come out with conclusive structures of how do we go about not only innovating, but inducing the right kind of thinking for growth and prosperity. And ultimately, in my opinion, the happiness and well-being, which is very critical. Any activity we do today or tomorrow has to induce that. If we do not induce that happiness and well-being, whatever we may do is of no worth and of no relevance. Profits in balance sheets, numbers in balance sheets. We can see what Ukraine and Russia is going through. They have huge numbers. United States, UK, various other countries have huge numbers. But that kind of a structure is still not inducing that happiness and happily living. I remember, I'll just take a half a minute more, Dr. Narendra. I remember when I used to work with the World Bank, we used to have beggars sitting outside in Washington, DC, outside the World Bank main building. I was working in the main MC building, as they used to call it. And just outside our bank building, there used to be beggars. If we went to Washington, DC, half of the city of DC was a risk zone where people, inhabitants who had no living and provided housing by the government were living. Remaining 1/4 was risky zone as well because thefts and burglaries took place. The balance 1/4 only DC was safe. In New York, large part of New York is so risky. In the guidebooks, they write in red characters that you must carry $10 or $20 in your pocket. Otherwise, you will lose your life. Because if he takes efforts to steal, the thief will theft you, burgle you, and you don't even give him $10, then for sure he will kill you. Now, that is the kind of level of humanitarian structure which we have seen even in rich societies or rich countries existing around the world. So I think this is something which is very important, that ultimately the goal of any activity which we do, any business, any work, anything we do, is inducing that happiness and well-being amongst each other, and a society which can grow and grow by itself. And this is something India fortunately has been blessed with. I remember that Professor Kolotko, who was the former Deputy Prime Minister and Finance Minister 3-4 times in Poland, and the reformists like Dr. Manmohan Singh in India, for Poland, for the new policy. When he visited us way back in 97 to address at the Institute, 96 and 97, while he was the Prime Minister, and he talked to the students, and I took him around. He says, oh, I see people on the street. I see people have no clothes on their bodies, but I see that they're happy. This is something which is very critically important. So if we are able to induce and enlighten with words like you and Professor Jagdish and other institutions coming together, creating platforms and disseminating information, I think we will do good for the world at large. in a
Thank
world of
you.
peace.
Thank you, Amanji. I like that, no, we are citizens of the nation. That word, no, very important. Similarly, the happiness and well-being, Sarve Jana Sukhino Bhavantu. That is a very important. And another, our Vasudeva Kutumbam. The whole world has to live with the that type of kutumbam or close relationship. So that is what we are all proud of. And in all times of necessity, the entire world also and India also has risen. And as you said, there may be somebody poverty, all that. But when it comes to that, he feels that I am very happy. I am a part of this great nation. So that is where even Marid was mentioning when he was saying touching the heart. We kept one slogan in IOB, touching the hearts, spreading smiles. I am always impressed by that no, we must bring happiness, smile in everybody when we touch, whenever, wherever we go. If we are able to bring, that is the work of the bankers. So nicely you put it, Farid Amanji, very nicely. So Farid, one thing I am asking you, there is a, like, one is everybody cannot be patient. The young generation want to be in your place as a CMD or ED, and they are fast. As you said, speed is the essence, speed is the capital, and they don't want to know, like somebody who is not driving that. So in your career also and in your various thing, how do we bridge this gap and give opportunity for others? One more essential of leader is vacate this place sometime for others. It is very difficult to talk, but very difficult to or practice also. So are you seeing some signs of where there is a little people are wanting to provide some leadership, but they are not getting opportunity, or even the opportunities are not equally shared? So for this age gap or some opinion on the final thoughts of you. Unmute, because now time we have to, yes. So, but unmute. Yeah. Udupa, yeah, he is not able to unmute. Yeah, please.
First of all, no doubt that the younger generation is having a lot of ambitions and aspirations to go up in the ladder. But the main problem is, though they are very receptive and their grasping power is very good, there is a knowledge gap between experienced people and the younger generation. If anybody has to be, according to me, any CEO or MD has to change his designation, he has to change his designation to chief mentor. So mentoring and coaching is very, very important in our nowadays. So unless until you mentor and coach this younger generation to take the higher responsibilities, it is not possible just because they are having the speed and agility to go up in the ladder. So that is one most important thing. No doubt, certain organizations, private organizations, they are coming, leaders are coming out and handing over to the next generations. But in the public sector, it is not that practical. Because, and even in the public sector, the government of India, particularly in the banks, they are giving the board positions to the executives not more than for 5 years. Whatever. And if you see the present generation of executives in the boards, they are very young comparatively. Earlier, only 1 year, 1.5 years, or 2 years left out service, only the chief executives, they used to become chief executives of the public sector banks. But nowadays, with 50, 52 years, they are becoming chief executives of the public sector banks, or the second line in the board. So there is a change definitely. But even when I heard in 20 years back, it was told in one of the conferences, any zonal heads or the regional heads should not be more than 40 or 42 years age, so that their thinking and their decision making will be faster. And it was not happened for the past 1.5 decade or 2 decades, but nowadays it is happening. If you see in the public sector, not only in the private sector, public sector also, the age gap has come down. And in fact, the people in 40s or 42, 45, below 45, they are becoming zonal heads and the regional heads. And definitely it is a good development. But the thing is, more important is the knowledge gap. It has to be, and their skills, because these two things are very, very important in handling, because of the non-recruitment in the public sector banks from 1985 to 2004, 2005 has created a big void in the talent in the public sector banks. So that can be overcome by mentoring and coaching. That is most important in the present public sector banks. I want to specify on the banks.
Okay, Dr. Farid Mohammed, thank you. But one thing is certain, that the young generation coming out of the management institutes or with the technology knowledge and a lot of what you call practical experience, they are, if molded, mentored, and opportunities are given by growth. Another thing is, growth is the essence. Organization should have a growth drivers, and every drivers will have to be activized, so that these young generation also get faster phase to head. Because today, if you see the private sectors, particularly even in bank, also in corporate, even a 30 years man can be head of the certain verticals, and the zeal and enthusiasm he possesses at that age, only by, of course, by experience and by handling all that, he should achieve. So they come around 2021, they come into the critical pace, and within that they learn. So there are all organizations, that's why now merger, all that, because size is the essence, another important. And HDFC Bank and HDFC, this merger would give a lot of opportunity for the workforce. And this, because immense growth, immense opportunity is there for them. So anyway, Farid Ahmed, that is another responsibility of ours, to ensure that knowledge is shared, knowledge is imbibed in a very practical tool. Another thing is, simply a training is not a solution. Practicality and molding and mentoring. So that is very important. So Mohan Raju, another last from you, the board plays a very important role in the governance, in the culture, in the risk management, in ESG, which I talked about that, or in sustainable, what you call, development goals, or sustainable finance, or blue finance, or so many areas today, they are challenged. So from the private sector, how do you find some, the boards are really playing in the terms of the leadership? Everyone in the board is a leader. So what is that they bring in that board level for the growth of the organization? So I would like to have your views. Last.
Yeah, sure, Dr. Narendra, thank you. So I think as we touched on earlier in this conversation, also you touched upon the sustainability goals, UN Sustainable Development Goals, and so on, Dr. Narendra. So obviously in private sector, the focus of profitability, more profits, or the capitalism as we call it, while that has been the genesis so far from the liberalization era of Prime Minister Narasimha Rao and 91 onwards, and Dr. Manmohan Singh era, reforms being brought in. But now I think in the last 4 years, what we are watching is the responsibility of doing business sustainably has become important than ever before, and this is being led by the private sector today, as we see. Now, just to see, in the board positions today, there are positions called Chief Sustainability Officer, right? And some of the organizations have a head of, corporate social responsibility, having sustainability as one of the department in him, right? So obviously, these initiatives have become, very prominent in the private sector. So they are becoming more responsible, cutting carbon footprint, saving energy, right? So many parameters are there, LEED certification, how green is this building? So they are taking many steps to comply to these global initiatives, which contributes towards the sustainability part. So this is something which is being actively pursued in the private sector. And obviously in the boards today, people are very conscious. People who come from that background, wherever they've worked in positions like, any agencies outside, they want only one board position only for a sustainability focus, right? So I think it's been, coming, at a fast pace. I think private sector is leading the baton. And I think as a country also, with our Prime Minister's, speech in the COP26 in November 26, I think India is also leading the way in terms of how a developing nation like India can show the world how you can develop by being responsible and being sustainable, right? So I think it's a huge responsibility. Private sector definitely leading the way, and more mentors at the board level are more welcome today. And yes, I think this becomes an increasing focus as we move forward from the private sector point of view. Dr. Narendra. I think you need to unmute, sir.
A parliamentary committee which has recommended that the most of the public sector, central public sector undertaking should have a board who are really knowledgeable of that particular activity which is done by that organization. And they found that somewhere we accommodate, maybe I have got to mention that it is mentioned some of the IAS officer, IIF officer or somebody were all there, but they don't know that area. So how do you have a better equipped and better knowledgeable from the diverse sectors which users which pull to that company as a board member? This is a recommendation which has now gone, and the Department of Public Industry or the PSUs and all will have to be strictly follow to get. So people like all of us or you also, anybody. See, one more thing I am finding that we don't have inventory of all the knowledgeable people. There must be government and the private sector, all we have to make a some inventory. And there are, of course, placement organizations and all, but some of the such knowledge is being underutilized or experience is underutilized. So we need to have that widely distributed in all corporates. We have suppose 1,000 listed corporate, they must have a very best of the board members. So to get into the higher mode of performance, and also the CSR and social aspects. Anyhow, now Sanjay ji, आपका last भी आपका है. तो इसमें क्या है? Some ordinary people bring extraordinary results. So you have heard shoe care, the difference. There is always a difference in winnability. Similarly, some corporates do substantially better than some corporate. So what is the, and that the level of 5 leadership, which we heard in good to great. And similarly, I was talking about earlier to you, the concept of BAG, that audacious goal, which is in the normal prudence looks very difficult, but in the gut that that they can achieve it and they will achieve it. So these are all very good concept from build to last, all that. So how are these corporates and other things who make a difference? How this is the, and in that how the leaders play a role. So iska ek aapka very pertinent and one or two your personal exposure in this. You have seen quite a lot of leaders. And another thing also, you may be seeing leaders without much any knowledge. They stick to that place also. They don't change. And it happens that it will be a drainage to the company also. So corporates have to be value creator, value enhancer, and they have to make more and more value aspect in the origination in the company. So in that respect, your final comment.
Yeah. So see, as you put it, organization has to be value creator. So what could be my unique value proposition, so to speak, and how I can keep on rediscovering myself, like Lord Shiva. How can I become the creative destructor, so to speak, and how can I create something novel, something new? But the problem is that for doing that, leaders need to build the capabilities and have to be sensitive and cognizant about the continual disruptions. Okay, so what I have seen that on one side, these great leaders or great organizations, they have visionary leader who would be kind of, who would be envisioning to reach the stars, so to speak. But then same time, they would kind of, give that vision to transfer that vision, that excitement to the, the employees of the company. I remember, I was fortunate enough to work with Mr. Rajiv Dubey. And in my early days, he said that, Sanjay, you have huge potential to reach star. So that is the characteristic of great leaders. The way they treat customers, same way they would like to treat their employees. They would like to build that confidence, that competencies. and compassion, I would say. So that is the difference I have seen.
Thank you, Sanjay ji. Really, that is very important. See, like, quite a lot of time when we have expressed some of our own colleagues that you have a long, means you have a definitely a role to play and you are a greater future leaders. And I have seen such of the youngsters have really taken that into their stride and they have made a difference and they have become great leaders. So as you said, Raju Dubey, he's a great human resource leader as well as a business leader, and he has inspired you. And at even to openly recognize and compliment and give you that killing spirit, that also needs a great quality. So thank you very much. I think this particular discussion from all of you five very distinguished and knowledgeable people like you, and this is we'll have to put on the various social media so that people can really value your such a proposition which you are given in this program. And I am sure that Rotary District 318 as well as NCube collaboration, all of us are very grateful to you. Now, as a protocol, I request our governor, district governor, Rotarian Raghavendra Bhatt, to give his concluding remarks. Sir, you are there, sir? Raghavendra Bhatt is there?
I'm here. Good evening, sir.
Yeah. No, before that, I think Ravindra Bhatt will be talking. Yeah, because he's governor is there. No, let him talk.
Yeah,
after that, your
there.
vote of thanks, please. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Sorry. Yes, sir. Your closing remarks, sir.
Am I audible to you?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Dear friends, I would like to bring a few important aspects of Rotary to you all. Rotary International is an organization serving the society from 1905. We are 117 years in service to society with more than 14 million Rotarians in the world and more than 1.6 lakh Rotarians in India. We serve the society in 7 focus areas, maybe health, literacy, environment, water and sanitation, promoting peace, etc., etc. Our major success is our effort from 1985 in eradicating the polio from this world. But for Pakistan and Afghanistan, there is no polio in the entire world. In Rotary, as you all know, every Rotarian is a leader or a master in his profession or vocation. But this seminar or webinar was organized to Rotarians to develop the leadership qualities. According to me, a leader is a person who makes the other a leader. This is what we have tried today to do. And if we are successful in making one person a leader, the effort put by the organizers is worth. A leader is a person who maintains the time, that is to be on time, commence the program on time, and finish it on time. Leadership is not a position, it is the responsibility taken by a person on behalf of the organization. A person who fulfills the requirement of the organization is a leader. A leader should have a very good communication skills. He should take everyone together and work together. Most important is that he should have self-confidence to solve the problems. Because every problem has got a solution, every question has got an answer. To conclude, in this age of digital disruption, leadership needs to evolve to embrace new approaches demanded by the digital economy. This is not about forgetting the traditional approaches, but building on them. You could call this two-speed leadership. Successful leaders in the digital era prosper most with a new focus on collaboration. With collaboration, it's actively ensuring this happens. With courage, it's being able to make the difficult decisions, often very quickly with many unknowns. And with culture, it's extending the vision to a passion for staff to own and drive. The speed and nature of the change we experience now warrants this, and when traditional leaders are afraid of technology or don't quite understand the opportunities or threats it brings, the difference required in leadership becomes much clearer. Leadership has become an essential component for a successful change in any organization in facing the ever-contentious market competitiveness. Thus, in my opinion, Transformational leadership style can help to reduce resistance to change, as resistance to change can be one of the many reasons for the failure of change initiatives. Hence, it is crucial to go deeper in this field while observing organizational change. All these things were briefed and addressed by the eminent speakers today, like Professor S. Jagdish, Mr. Mohan Raj, Dr. Aman Agarwal, Dr. Sanjay Jha, Dr. Farid Ahmed, under Dr. M. Narendra, who was the moderator for today's online seminar. Thank you, one and all the speakers and also the moderators. My hearty congratulations to the district chairman, leadership development, Ramesh Rao, president and members of Rotary Suratkal, who hosted this program and organized such a wonderful webinar, and who attended this seminar will definitely take home a good input, which will be very useful in the future. I thank you, the organizers, for giving me an opportunity to address, and also all the delegates for hearing me patiently. Once again, we'll meet later on for further webinar meetings. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir. And really, Rotarians are famous for service activities, and also they are very particular about time management. And also, of course, you also gave quite a lot of aspect of the leadership also. And I'm happy or thankful to Rotary for giving us an opportunity to bring this program. And now I request our Raghavendra Bhatt, who is the Assistant Governor, to give the vote of thanks.
Good evening, everybody. I wish I'm audible.
Yeah.
Yes, you are.
I wish I'm. Good evening, everybody. So this is a unique program which we have launched under the leadership of our Rotarian District Governor Ravindra Bhatt. I thank Ravindra Bhatt for giving us this opportunity to host this seminar on leadership on the changing landscape. And I wish to place my thanks for our president, Rotary Club Suratkal President, Rotarian Chandrakant Marathe, for also giving us this opportunity to host this event. And we have got eminent speakers like Professor Jagdish, who has given us a lot of inputs into what the leadership, how the leader should be. And he's a professor in, I am an ex-professor in IIM Bangalore. I thank you very much for giving us a lot of inputs on leadership. And secondly, we have got Dr. Aman Agarwal, Professor of Finance, Indian Institute of Finance. He has also given us a lot of inputs on leadership. Thank you for your speech, sir. And we have got Dr. Farid Ahmed, ex-director Punjab and Sindh Bank. He has given us a lot of good inputs on the leadership. I thank you on behalf of the Rotary RI District 3181. And we have got Mohan Raju, Vice President of Reliance Geo Information and Communication Limited. He has given practically has given us a lot of inputs and how the leadership should be. And his state of that is visionary, who makes it a reality, is a real way of executing the vision. And we need a lot of visionaries for leadership in our country especially. So I thank you very much for giving us this opportunity, speech on leadership. And we have got Sanjay Jha, the head of Mahindra First Choice Limited. I thank you very much for giving us a talk on leadership. And we have got our own person, Dr. M. Narendra. He hails from Suratkal. We are all old students of Govindas College, and we have been in contact for a long time. And because of him, we could have this particular seminar. I thank very much for him, because he's a guiding force for all our activities. Even he was a Rotaractor, I suppose. He was a Rotary, long back, he was a Rotaractor, and he knows what is Rotary and all those aspects of the Rotary, what we do. I thank him very much for giving us this opportunity. And I also thank our own member, and also he's a district leader for the district chairman for leadership, and he has made, so far I don't think for a long time we didn't had such a seminar on leadership, and because of his enthusiasm and vision, we could have this particular seminar, and thank Rotarian Ramesh Rao for making this event successful. I thank all the persons who have been helpful in doing. Even I would like to thank Rotarian Praveen Udupa. He is the person who looks after all this web seminar on behalf of our district Rotary District 3181. I thank. And also I thank the district secretaries. We have got Rotarian Vivek Attavar, Vijendra, and all those people who are doing a lot of works for successfully conducting the Rotary events. I thank everybody for giving me this opportunity to participate as a guest of honors. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you all, and I'm particularly thankful to all our great participants. As one time around 90 people, and all the big professors, VIPs, and others, Rotarians also from elsewhere state also, and all of them have come, and they are our ambassadors of leadership. Thank them very much. Thank you, everybody. Let us also have similar programs in the future.